Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing great. Sorry if my voice sounds a little bit congested, it is. I've been fighting that crud that's been going around since the new year. But as I've been sick through the end of the holidays, I've been doom scrolling on YouTube. And one of the things that that's been popping up on my feed has been the Leica Q4. And it's all this AI generated stuff. So I thought it'd be fun to really just have an open discussion about it and maybe get your opinion as well on what we think we would want in a Q4. What would the best Q4 be or the ultimate Q4 be? So let's first start with the basics. So I have a Q3 28 and I'm also fortunate enough to have the Q3 43 as well. I love them both. And when I travel, I just take these two cameras and then that's it. Although I'll take a little video camera or 360 camera as well for video. For those of you who don't know the basics of this camera, these cameras are a fixed lens camera. So you can't take the lens off at all. Everything is built in kind of one component and it is built like a tank. It is really nice. It's small, it's compact. I wouldn't say it's pocketable by any means, but it is very small compared to carrying a bunch of gear with you. Whether you get the 28mm version or the 43mm version, it's a full frame camera. There's no swapping of lenses. You don't make any decisions on it. You just pick one and go. And it doesn't matter which one you pick for the most part. Obviously, the focal lengths are the only decision you're going to have to make. But the nice thing about this is you have the ability to crop into different focal lengths. So this, I think, gets up to about a 90mm lens. Now, is it a true 90mm? No, but you can get that as far as reach is concerned. And the pictures come out really sharp. So the Leica Q3 was released in June of 2023, and then the Q3 43 came out later. So why is this camera important? It's a great minimalistic setup. You don't have to worry about what lens you're gonna bring. You don't have to worry about if it's gonna take great photos or not, because it just will. It's a Leica. And you have all the Leica color science in here, and you have just a very do everything type camera. It's easy to walk around with. The Leica Q3 also takes great video as well, so it shoots up to 8K video in this camera. So it is really a workhorse. The sensor size on this thing is 60 megapixels, so it's the same as the M11. Again, back to the crop modes. On the 28mm lens, you can get a 35mm crop, a 50mm crop, and a 75, and then a 90. And it's a fast 1.7 lens, so it's great for nighttime photography or low light, and it has a great shallow depth of field. So this camera and this lens setup is pretty amazing. It also has built-in optic image stabilization in the lens, and which is very rare for a fixed lens camera. So if you look at the new Fujis that came out, the medium format ones even, or I'm not sure about the Sony one, but most don't have image stabilization that are all in one unit. This also has a macro mode to it. So you can get as close to 17 centimeters away from an image and you get these great macro shots. The camera is also weather sealed, so it's an IP52 rating, so you can take this out into rain and not have a problem with it. You have face detect autofocus with eye tracking, and again, it just feels like a tank. I have mine rigged out with the helium design grip and a tilt plate on the top, so I probably have a little bit more bulk added to my camera than maybe others, but the camera itself, if naked, would be just incredibly minimal, but very highly capable. So that's the overview of the existing Q3. So why, or what are we looking forward to, or what's wrong with the Q3 that can be improved? And it's really hard to find, and a lot of this stuff will be dream wish list items. These are just coming out of my head, but send me a comment down below on what you think you would like to see in the Q4 as well. So let's talk about the strongest point of this camera, which is the lens. Now, this lens has been around since the original Q. So there's the Q, the Q2, Q3. This lens has been around since then. Now they upgraded to the Q43, which is just the 43mm Apple lens. And that's a great lens too. But what would you want to change in the lens? So in this case here with the 28mm, this is almost a 10-year-old lens. If you're going to change this lens at all, I would say maybe from a 1.7, if they can drop it down to a 1.4, that'd be great. It just extends the reach on low light, and then you get a little bit more separation with it. So if you can get down to 1.4 from 1.7, if you're going to do anything to this lens, I would say do that. And the same thing with the 43 millimeter. That's an f2 lens, and so I'd like to see that get down to maybe 1.7 or 1.4. Now, if you watch my channel at all, you'll know that I do actually use my Q3s for video. My goal into buying something like this originally was, how do I get this to be the one camera that I travel with? I want this to do everything. One, everything that it says it can do, and then two, that I just want to bring this with me. And if I want to shoot video, I could shoot video. If I want to take amazing pictures, it already does that, to take amazing pictures. But my biggest frustration with the Q3 has been on the video side of the equation. So while I can stick this on a tripod and shoot these kind of videos with it, I find that hand holding this camera and taking video is hot garbage. And the reason for that is there's in-lens stabilization, but there's no dynamic stabilization at all. Now, what is interesting to me, and again, the haters out there are going to hate on this section of the video, and that's fine. But if you look at very small pocketable cameras, think about the DJI Osmo Nano that came out, or the Insta360 little cameras that came out, or any action cam, they have amazing stability. You have this rock steady stuff or whatever. All of that is software-based stability. Sony has their kind of dynamic stabilization in addition to IBIS, but you could do something with this on the software side, or a combination of software and hardware, where you can get a more stable shot holding handheld. And then even a horizon lock would be great as well. So if you're moving around, not because you're going to take this surfing or snowboarding, but if you are moving around, think of traveling on a bus or a Jeep or a train or something where it's a little bit more bumpy, or even, again, on a boat, to be able to have maybe a horizon lock to keep the horizon level even if the camera's moving around. Yes, that's going to require a crop, and I think as long as you understand that, I think everybody's going to be okay with it. So a 10 to 15% crop on a 28 millimeter lens will give you roughly around a 31 to 33 millimeter lens. So still wide enough. My point is, if action cameras have figured this out years ago, then Leica can too. And especially with their partnership, allegedly with Insta360, they should be sharing that technology. And again, that's more software than hardware bulk. So I think that would be just one of my first kind of dream list items. Okay, the next item on my list is some internal storage. Now, one of the things that in my kind of dream sheet is I want to keep the camera the same size. I don't want to bulk this out, but I would like to see some internal storage. Again, using other cameras as kind of benchmarks, Leica already does this. They do it on their M11, which has, I think, 64 gigabytes of internal storage. The M11P, I think, has about 256 gigabytes of storage. And all of these cameras came out before the Q3. So let's put some storage in this thing. I would say 256 would be great. Just to have the additional storage on board would be, I think, awesome. The other thing I would like to see, because I do shoot video with this camera, is better microphone support. Now, what was cool is when I bought this camera, there was no ability to hook up a microphone to it at all. Then Leica came out and said, okay, we can use the USB port and we'll let you hook up a wireless receiver to this camera. And that has been game-changing for what I want to do with this particular camera. Then they even fixed the problem with being able to see yourself, and so that's even made this even better. So they're on the right track. What I would like to see, though, again, this is just out of my crazy head, is native Bluetooth microphone support. Again, they have partnerships with companies like Insta360. Other little cameras do this, the Osmo Pocket 3, the Ace Pro 2. cameras all have Bluetooth support. Again, I know a lot of cameras don't have that built in, so be a leader. Put native Bluetooth support so you don't have to attach a receiver to this camera. No adapters, no cables, just get rid of all that stuff and just have the ability to natively connect a wireless microphone system to the camera. And while we're on the topic of video, one of the things, and I haven't tested this out yet with the new software, so we'll put a flag on this one to follow up, but I would like to see better autofocus in video. As I've struggled with this, I had a whole video on where I screwed it up and what I've done to change it, and I've gotten better results. I think with the new firmware 4, with the better eye tracking, I think it might fix it, but I want to make sure it just nails that. We'll talk about regular autofocus later, but I think there could be an improvement there. Okay, back to video. Let's remove the video recording limit. So the Q3 currently has about a 29-minute recording limit, and then you got to go back to turn the camera off, turn it back on, or run a timer while you're videoing yourself or whatever. This was originally due to EU tax rules, is what I understand, that cameras that recorded over 30 minutes were taxed as camcorders. Those went away a long time ago. So, that rule should have changed as well. So the limit's no longer necessary. So let's just up the ceiling on that. Make it unlimited recording, or at least until the card fills up or the battery dies. I know that I haven't yet ever had this camera overheat at all, period. And I live in Las Vegas where it's 118 degrees out. Now I don't video in 118 degrees. I'm usually indoors, but I've never had an overheat warning for taking pictures or anything like that. Okay, so now let's talk about fun stuff like sensors. So this has an amazing 61 or 60 megapixel sensor in it. It's mind-blowing the resolution you get out of this particular sensor. However, let's progress forward. I would like to see a 70 or more megapixel sensors with better dynamic range. Personally, I think this camera can compete in the full frame arena to something like the new Hasselblad that came out with 100 megapixels. I would rather carry one of these around than a Hasselblad. Although the Hasselblad really intrigues me, this is a lot better form and function. So let's see what we can do to boost the resolution even further out of this particular sensor. I know 100 megapixels might sound like overkill, but I'm a cropaholic, and so the ability to crop would be great. 70 would be meaningful, it gives you a little bit more reach, but again, if you can't get 100 in here, let's get down to 70. And I think more importantly though, is to prioritize dynamic range and low light performance rather than just the race for megapixels. So I can conflict it on that particular one. The Hasselblad has 15.3 stops, I think, of dynamic range. The Q3 has 14 stops, so we're close, but I think there could be improvement. And then while we're talking about sensor is cleaner high ISO in the range of the 6400 to 12,800, make that a little bit more usable. I think that would be some sort of technology, or there's got to be some sort of software that they can change in the camera to make those ISOs or higher ISOs better. I don't know if anybody needs 100,000 ISO. I've tried to use it, and I don't know why that works. If you have taken a picture with 100,000 ISO or 50,000 ISO, let me know, because I haven't been able to figure out a way to make that work without it looking like a 1980s TV with the fuzz that used to be back on there. So again, I wouldn't chase the megapixels, but I would chase image quality. Along with that, I would say another wish list item for me would be focus stacking with in-camera processing. As on the SL models, especially now with the new software that they just got, you can actually take a multi-shot or focus stacked image and then export that out, and then you can get just very great resolution with that. So you could take a 60 megapixel image and times it by 3, for example, and you can get just incredible detail out of there. I would like to see that. So if you're going to keep those megapixels the same, or maybe increase to 70 megapixels, great. But give us the ability to multi-stack. And then what I also want to do is I want the camera to do all the work. I don't want to have to stick it into Lightroom, or I use Luminar Neo and then have to do something with it. I want to just take it right out of camera. And I want to be able to say, okay, do this, and then put it in that mode, do it, process it, and then make it ready to actually export to my iPhone or whatever I want to do with it. But don't let me go through multiple steps to make something work. I believe Olympus and Panasonic, I think, already do this, so the technology's out there. I just like to see it in this particular camera. Okay, shifting a little bit to physical controls, I would like to see a joystick. I think Hasselblad was right on putting a little nub on here. I could see where you could put a little nub on the center button here and just give us the ability to have a better joystick experience. It'd be easier to use than the touch pad, or create something a little bit more innovative if you really want to keep this flat. Okay, now on the software side of things, let's talk about first the Photos app. I love the Photos app. I think that is a very great experience. I could literally have this camera sitting in the camera bag in the back seat and launch the Photos app and just have it download everything without having to touch the camera. And that is just a great feature to have. The ability to monitor or use your camera as a monitor is really good. It could be a tiny bit better, but it's really useful that way. But I would like to see the Photos app evolve somewhat similar to the Hasselblad's Focus mobile app. The Focus app lets you do actual raw editing on your phone. You could do exposure adjustments, color grading, noise reduction. The noise reduction feature on the Hasselblad is really good in-app. So you could then take something out of the camera, move it to the Photos app, and then clean that thing up incredibly. And I think at least the images that I've seen on YouTube, the Focus app works a lot better than what you can get out of Lightroom, for example. And then you still have the ability to apply your Leica looks and things like that. Maybe another thing would be to preview the noise reduction before you actually export in the camera. So, if the camera knows that it takes a picture that's really grainy, maybe signify in there with either colors or something like this, says, hey, we think we could fix this, but this stuff here is garbage, and it will still continue to be garbage even if we try to clean it up. The Focus app really should be an extension of the camera, not just a file transfer utility software. Okay, back to the camera. So on the rear screen, I love the rear screen on this particular camera. The quality on it is amazing, but I think if we're gonna wish about things, the 3 inches is fine. I'm good with the size. Right now, I think it's 3 inches with 1.84 million dots. If we're gonna do anything to the rear screen, I would say let's improve the resolution to at least 2.1 million dots like the M11. So that would be great. And then let's boost up the nits. So I would want like 1,500 or more nits for better outdoor visibility. Now, I know this one's going to be controversial as well, but maybe a better tilt mechanism for more smoother angles. It tilts out great. It's not fully flat. It does have a downward angle to it. So maybe if it pulled out a little bit and up like what Hasselblad did, I think that would be great. I don't know how they would do it, but I would like it to flip out as well at some point. I know that is an issue with weather sealing and things like that. So that one I'd be willing to give up, especially now that the Photos app works in all conditions. But the ability to get this in a little bit more, maybe out and horizontal would be good, although this is pretty good already. Okay, so one of the things that came out in December with the 4.0 software was subject detection for dogs and cats and things like that, right? So that's great, but let's include birds, let's include cars, let's include trains, and if you're doing macro stuff, insects or slow motion stuff, then insects would be fine too. So let's improve on that. There's AI, everything out there. There's things like marine life and whale watching and all the stuff that you can do with this camera. But let's put some more smarts in the autofocus system. And again, as we're loading more software into the camera, let's look at things like pre-capture. So is there a pre-capture buffer option? Would be nice to have. So this is where you push the shutter, you miss the moment, right? Pre-capture solves this. The camera's always recording to a little bit of a buffer. So when you push the shutter button, it saves a couple frames right before you pressed it. Sony and Canon and OM systems have this or offer versions of that. So if it was like a half a second to 1 second pre-capture buffer, that might be useful for some photographers. Because I'm a cropaholic, I think that one of the things I would like to see is instead of fixed frame focal lengths, to be able to infinitely adjust the focal length that you want. So we know this goes from 28 to 90, and then there's steps for 35, and there's another step for, I think it's 50 or around 50, and then it goes on in fixed increments. I want to be able to infinitely increment. So if I want a 33 millimeter, if I want a 43 millimeter, if I want something in between. So give me the ability to set an infinite range up to whatever the maximum would be, as opposed to toggling between fixed lengths. So that's my rambling list of things that I would like to see, or my dream sheet, so to speak, of what I'd like to see in the Q3s. Now, is this realistic? Some of these are easy. Software updates and algorithms and AI and all that stuff, that's all code. But then some of the wish list items are going to require some real engineering, new stabilization systems or thoughts around that, maybe AI chips and things like that. So I know that there's some guts in there that it might have to change. And then things are just catching up. So things like what the M11 already does, or even the new camera that came out that doesn't have the rangefinder, all of those have different guts in them. And so the ability for Leica to do things is obviously there. It's just a matter of actually doing it. And how do you want to upgrade these cameras? Would the camera cost more? Maybe, but this is already an expensive camera compared to its competition. Let's just say, for round numbers, that we're in that high 6s to 7 range, or low 7 range, compared to the Hasselblad, which is now dropping their prices while they're increasing more features. So is it possible? Yes, you could possibly increase the price, but you can also potentially improve the camera enough and keep the price the same, and it's still competitive with others. I think that would make a very compelling argument. Now, would it be worth it? Absolutely, I think it would. So my final thought on this is that the Q3 is already an incredible camera. I think that there's obviously room for improvement. I think if we're talking about the Q4, this really could be the ultimate hybrid. I think it's time for Leica to bring everything they've learned over the years between all their camera systems and then their partnerships into one package. That, to me, would be the dream Q4 wish list. So let me know, what would you add to this list? What features matter most to you? Drop your wish list items in the comments below. And if you found this useful, please subscribe for more camera content and other ramblings. So thank you again for watching. Take care. We'll see you.